Beautiful stuff. Years ago I was at a Mariners baseball game. I know it's kind of a random place to start, but you got to start somewhere. And for those of you that are baseball fans, I don't know that something that rarely ever happens in baseball is called a perfect game. And it's where no runner gets on base, basically. So a pitcher throws a perfect game and no runner gets on base. And there was a guy that pitched for the Seattle Mariners, where I'm from. His name's Felix Hernandez. And he pitched one of the only perfect games in the history of Major League Baseball. And my buddy David and I were there for the game. We got to see it. So I created this kind of picture board for it, because I snapped off a bunch of pictures in a row when he was throwing his very last pitch. And so I got him, and I made this picture board of it, which is pretty cool. That's beside the point. Here's the real story. So the announcer for the Mariners, his name at the time was Dave Sims. And he was saying, it was about in the fifth inning, and it's funny, I heard this story afterward, the day after. And I turned to my buddy who I was watching the game with, we were in the stands, and I said, it was about the fifth inning or so, and I said, because, back then we're drinking beer and we're carrying on and we're chatting with people around, and, you kind of go to a day game. It's a day game. You go to a day game and you're eating popcorn and you're paying attention to the game a little bit, but, et cetera. And I said, has anybody been on base? And he goes, I don't think so. and I said, okay, so I'm going to start paying attention a little bit more. Anyway, things go on, and he throws this perfect game. So a day later, I'm listening to the sports show, and the Mariners announcer, Dave Sims, the Mariners announcer, if you've listened to sports for any amount of time, you're aware of the announcer's jinx. If you've listened to that, like as soon as I say something, the thing that I'm saying the opposite is going to happen, right? It's called superstition. It's in sports everywhere. I'm getting to a point. I promise you I'm coming to a point here. So he says that he starts announcing on the broadcast, no one's been on base. We've got a perfect game going through 5 innings. We've got a perfect game going through 6 innings. And his partner is going, don't say anything, Dave. Don't say anything, Dave. And he's going, in his own mind, he's like, I don't believe in superstition. I'm a broadcaster. This is what he said. He said, I'm a broadcaster, not a narrowcaster. Isn't that fantastic? This is a broadcast, not a narrowcast. And I thought to myself, that's it right there. That's it. This is a broadcast. And more than that, it cuts through through this superstitious stuff. Because obviously, superstition is just that. It's superstition, right? What we know around here is that there is principle. And principle is unbreakable, unshatterable, and cannot be hijacked by superstition. And the principles that I want to address a little bit today are around the idea of prayer. For those of you that are in the Essential Ernest Holmes class for the last 5 weeks, we've been moving through an exploration of this book right here, The Essential Ernest Holmes, Collected Writings of Ernest Holmes. And it's a wonderful book, and there's a lot of good stuff in here. And I want to share a definition with you, and then I want to walk through a few of these steps that Ernest Holmes walked through that was a little bit different back in the day than for some of you now who have gone through classes who pray a certain way. Ernest Holmes had a way of kind of shortening the process a little bit. And I know in this kind of microwave day and age, shorten this right, a little bit of a shortcut. We're going to go from 5 steps down to 4. How does that sound today, huh? A 1-step shortcut in your power of prayer. But first I want to share this definition with you, and I hope that what I'd like for you this week is to meditate on it. I'm going to ask you to just be with it. As a definition of prayer, I was talking with Seth a little bit before the service about prayer, and he said, what are we talking about this morning? And I said, we're going to talk a little bit about prayer, and I'm aware that even as a minister, as soon as I start talking about things like that, I'm hypersensitive to how it lands over here. If I start talking about prayer, well, prayer is automatically a subjugation or a supplication or something to some power that's someplace other than where you are, someplace that you have to get to, and if I can just have, a sexy enough voice or use the right words or whatever it is, I can get God to show favor upon me. And that's not what prayer is at all. Prayer, in fact, is a movement of thought within the mind of the one praying along a definite line of meditation that is for a specific purpose. One more time. A prayer is a movement of thought within the mind of the one praying. That's you. That's me. Are we trying to change God's idea about us? We've been trying that for a long time already, gang. We've been trying to do that. You know, good little boys and good little girls, right? Say your prayers. Eat your vegetables. Blah, blah, blah. You know, whatever. Read your spiritual material. You know, whatever the minister of this day and age has to say about what it means to be a good spiritual person. All of that doesn't mean anything compared to just knowing and being the very place where the Spirit is, knowing and being the place where God is. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do any of this stuff. You don't have to do any of it. But to come together in community and do it together is a sacred blessing. And to be exposed to new ideas and new thoughts is a sacred blessing. A prayer is a movement. See, because Ernest Holmes is one with God, and I'm one with God, and Ernest and I are one, I can chuck the book. It's okay. A prayer is a movement of thought within the mind of the one praying along a definite line of meditation that is for a specific purpose. That's for a specific purpose. So I'm here, and I'm praying to experience greater friendship in my life. My prayer then becomes, what must I become in order to become a better friend? What must I become in order to become more loving? This is a specific movement along a definite line of thought and along a definite line of reasoning for a specific purpose. If business isn't going as planned, I start where I'm at right now, and it's okay to start with frustration. It's okay to start with anger. It's okay to start with upset. It's okay to start with wherever you are. But you have a vision for your life. You have an idea of something that you'd like to be better or more expressed, more exposed, more grandized, more possibility-filled. And so you start with, okay, I'm frustrated. I'm not experiencing enough business possibility in my life. Well, if Ernest Holmes was here today, I'm sure what he'd say, and other, I'm thinking of like Joel Goldsmith, some other people, you know, that for business is, there's a definite movement of consciousness along a specific line for a specific outcome. And so if it's business, if it's finance, if it's creativity, if it's health, it's starting where you are and moving along the lines of reasoning to an idea where you arrive at, if it's for your body, my body is whole. If it's for your bank account, that my bank account is experiencing plenty, and you actually see it. You feel into it, you know into it, and yeah, there's part of you that says there's a big fat zero in my bank account right now. I'm not an idiot, all right? We're not dumb. And we could sit here and realize, okay, there's a big fat zero in my bank account right now. Who am I to say, oh, I'm experiencing the lavish abundance of the universe and all this? Like, come on, you know, we get it, right? But there's something about moving your consciousness into an awareness where you can actually see plenty, where you can actually experience more, where you can actually experience, you can sit down right now and feel what it's feel like. You can, even if you don't have any friends, you could sit down right now and feel the experience of being in a friendship. You can close your eyes and feel what it's like to walk down the street and laugh, to sit across the table from somebody over a meal and be jovial or talk deep or actually even have an argument, to know that you're in a real trusted friendship with somebody. To go to the park, to go bowling, to do whatever, you can feel into those things. That's creating viscosity, gang. It creates thickness. It creates a consciousness of more, and it adds unto itself. Science tells us that anything with mass, with a greater mass, has a greater what? Gravitational pull. And so anything with a mass of consciousness, a consciousness that we've amassed, has a great gravitational pull to it, you see. So the evidence of life doesn't matter right now. What evidence do you want to look to? Do you want to look to the evidence of a bank account that's dwindling, or to the evidence of a kingdom from where you're from? And this might sound like hogwash. It might sound like wishful thinking, but it's not. People have been doing it over time forever, getting themselves from one spot to another. It's called growth. It's called growth. I jumped higher than I thought there. I was expecting to land and I was still in the air. That's a 50-year-old leap. It's called growth. And so here is one formula. Before kind of, educational folks, before, evolution and things happen where people get their hands on things and they make them into something else, which is all good and fine, but I want to share these 4 steps of prayer with you with the hopes that whether you've studied prayer or not, that this material is something that you can be with this week. I want you to have something you can dance with during the week, something that you can that can help you grow. So here, I'm going to read these off to you just so you know exactly how Ernest Holmes breaks it down, paragraph by paragraph. So the first step is recognition. We know that there was one life. That life is God. There is one creator, one creation, one law, one intelligence, one ultimate reality. It is good, whole, perfect, complete, and harmonious. There's one thing happening. There aren't 2 gods. There's one God. One God. That can be God to you. That can be God to me. That can be God for you. That can be God for you. Can be God for you. It's to simply spend time in recognition of the idea that there is a power and a presence that's not lording over you to make you do something. That's actually, when we look at this class in class, maybe it's just like lying in wait, waiting for us to discover it, so that it can continue to give us the riches of the kingdom of heaven that it so wants to. The only way we will know this, though, is to practice it. The only way we'll know it is for some level of spiritual practice to meditate upon these words. So that's recognition. It's just a stop in the midst of, you know what it is, in the midst of your busy day. I talk to people sometimes, and I'm like, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing okay. Or, and I experience this too. I'm just kind of hanging in there, and it's like, those are the moments to stop and recognize that I of myself do nothing, that it is the Father, Mother principle within me that does the work. That there's something that's going before me to make the way plain. I didn't just create myself. My mom and dad just didn't get together and all of a sudden say, let's create human, and all of a sudden there's a divine intelligence for thousands and millions and an infinite amount of years back of our lives. A divine intelligence, you see. A place where we create from to recognize the power and the presence is simply to move us to a place of humility, to realize that it's not my power. I'm simultaneously humbled, frustrated, and extraordinarily grateful when I come to a place of realizing that I, of my own power, can do very, very, very little. So very little. I have so very little that I'm in control over. So very little. There's so much out there that I don't. The next step, after we recognize that there's one power and presence, is to identify that I am one with it. So in order for this to quote-unquote work, it's not just enough for there to be a presence. It has to be active in my life, right? It's got to be I got to participate with it. I've got to play, baby. I want to play with it. Not just think about it. Is identification. We identify ourselves with God. Quote, I am that which thou art that which I am. The Father, the Mother, and I are one. There needs to be a conscious, intelligent sensing and feeling of the divine presence within as what we are. We are a creation of God, and we are expressing God. There is no separation between us and God. We are one. Right? That's akin to a unification step. He's calling it a identification step. Identify yourself as one with. Identify yourself as one with. This is through our practice. We've spent enough time in our lives practicing identifying being one with what? Being one with not enough? Being one with less than? Being one with I'm not smart enough? Not pretty enough, not handsome. We spent time practicing some of these other things too. We want to spend time practicing, I'm beautiful. I want you to spend time practicing, I am enough. I want you to spend time practicing, I'm smart enough. Who is it, Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. From back in the day, right? See, they make fun of it. And this is kind of when the New Thought movement or the metaphysics was just kind of coming around back then with Stuart Smalley. They're making fun of it, but we realize now there's something to this whole psychosomatic connection, yes? We realize there's something to realizing and claiming our place, our divinity, and our place in the kingdom and queendom of heaven. We realize there's something to it. That it's a movement of our consciousness, yes? Declaration, step 3. Some of these may sound familiar to you, but there's only 4 instead of 5. Discount day. Does that even make any sense? Anyway, there is a definite declaration. There is a definite and specific action and movement of intelligence through thought, word or idea for some definite purpose or person. Right? That sounds familiar. We just talked about that. Not supplication, wishing, hoping, or begging, but a concrete declaration of a fact, a specializing of universal good in some way. You are a specialization of universal good. How wonderful is that? You are a specialization of universal good. A specialization of universal good. You are. That's pretty rad. There is definitely established in thought the spiritual level of cause and creativity, a complete idea. An idea to which we may mentally point and know its reality as though we were pointing at the sun and saying, there is the sun. That's the connection. Did you get it? It's as clear as pointing to the sun and saying, there is the sun. There is a definitely established in thought the spiritual level of cause and creativity, a complete idea. An idea to which mentally point and know its reality as though we were pointing at the sun and saying, there is the sun. We know that such a declaration of idea of God is speaking its word in us, God being an active agent in its own creation. Isn't that wonderful? You catch that? An active agent in its own creation. God is an active agent in your life right now. You're not left alone. You're a specialization of universal good. We're connecting to an idea that's telling us it's as real as the sun and pointing to the sun and saying it's as real as the sun. I have extraordinary friendships in my life right now. I have extraordinary financial capacity in my life right now. I have wonderful health in my body temple right now. And pointing to it as it is as real as the disco ball that I am pointing at right now. That it's as real as that. And we're saying health now. And we're saying peace now. And we're saying success now. And we're saying wisdom now. Beauty now. Joy now. Fulfillment now. Excellence now. All of these beautiful things now. What's the alternative, gang? Do we want to walk through life just like, Eeyore was a wonderful character. Right? Look at Winnie the Pooh metaphysically, right? I mean, Eeyore is just like, and then you got people around him trying to pick him up. But you see, you can move through life like that if you want. And I can too. And there are times when I do, and certainly times when I have. But I'm telling you, there's an alternative to all of this. A life where we can see more upon waking in the morning, a more light. And upon going to sleep in the evening, a more light and less anxiety and more rest and more purposefulness and more joy. You see, this is to declare the life that we're committed to living. If you're here with a partner or a spouse, if you got a friend, you've got somebody, this is what we have, prayer partner relationships and things like that too. You spend time getting together, declaring Declaring this week, you can even make it your code word this week. There's the sun. Susan, Sherry, there's a horse, right? There's the sun. You know what I'm saying? It's like as real as whatever. There's the sun. What are you working on? What are you working on demonstrating this week? What are you working on calling into being this week? There's the sun. There's the sun. There's the sun. Acceptance is number 4. We accept our declaration, the word we have spoken. There's the sun as being manifest now. No delay is involved between this cause and its appearance as effect. We accept that our word, the declaration we have made, is the supreme intelligence speaking through us. That is the supreme spirit speaking through us, and that according to the nature of the way it works through law, our word automatically manifests in accord with law. And our acceptance of the reality of this good is as tangible effect in our experience. We give thanks that it is so, that as now we believe it is done unto us. Acceptance. Accept in your life your good. To actually roll out the welcome mat, the red carpet. Imagine yourself, if you're in your home of consciousness, and it looks like the home in which you live, that you actually put, for all the good and glorious things that exist, quote unquote, out there in the world, that you become a place of magnetism, you become a place of that viscosity, you become a place of that pull, that massive pull, where you throw the welcome mat of your house of consciousness out every morning, welcoming the good that is yours. Welcoming the creativity, welcoming the beauty, welcoming the friendships, welcoming the peace, welcoming that internal relationship with the self that says, I'm all right. I'm all right. Don't nobody worry about me. All right, we're starting to get way off track now. Time to start maybe opening the eyes a little bit. So, we roll into our lives every morning, rolling out the welcome mat in consciousness for an ever greater expression, an ever greater experience of our being. And these 4 steps are a wonderful opportunity for us to practice. These 4 steps are a wonderful opportunity for us to, if you want to call it prayer, call it prayer. If you want to call it just a movement of consciousness, call it a movement of consciousness. Call it whatever you want, but to recognize that God is all there is. Identify that you are one with that presence. Declare your statement of being, there's the sun, and accept that all is well now. That there's no timeline between I'm speaking my word for good and the good that arrives. In consciousness, I am establishing it now. So just one more time, to bookend our experience here this morning, I invite you just to close your eyes just for a moment, if you're comfortable or not. You don't have to, but just to take a deep breath, and again realizing, what is your statement of success this week? Just privately to yourself, what is your statement of there is the sun this week? What is your there is the sun statement? That will heal you, sustain you, and set you free. This becomes your prayer of love. I love that song. A prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and it sets us free. What is your there is the sun statement this week? I invite you to take a breath. And open your eyes if they were closed. And I invite you to state your there is the sun statement to somebody or somebodies. And if you haven't clarified your statement as of now, work on clarifying it over the next day or two, and then state it to somebody so that you have the power of community and the power of relationship. Yes? Yes. And so it is.